All right. Woo! We are here. Oh my gosh. It is Jennifer and Keri. I am so excited to have Keri Payne join us tonight as a special guest. We are going to be sort of covering, I guess we're going to have basically a conversation over a fantastic glass of red. And we're going to cover some ground about the power of personal development. Now, I'm not sure, if everybody here is familiar. I mean, I've been on a personal growth journey, I think, really my whole life, but really in the last 14 and a half, 15 years, I've really dove in and my journey's a little bit different than Keri's. And I said, this is what I'm so excited about, is to bring her story to you guys and to open up some dialogue and have some fun with this. Because what I was just saying to Keri is there's more than one way to climb a mountain. So when it comes down to personal development, it really is a personal journey. It's unique. It is special to you, right? I mean, every day will sort of unfold, right? Each individual's journey. There's no right path. There's no wrong path. It's just your path. And I hope that we sort of bring that to the table for you guys to recognize that no matter where you are on your journey right now, you're in the right place. And I just want to say that I'm so proud of each and everybody who's here and joining us to, check out this event, to even just play in the arena of some personal development, to expand just that conversation and the thought processes and, whether or not you're really early on the journey or you've been on this journey for a long time and really want to connect with some other people that are passionate about this as well. No matter what, you're in the right place. So I'll be quiet and I'm going to let Keri introduce herself. I will just say that right off the bat, we are technically cousins. I say sisters. We were next door neighbors and I don't know, partners in crime for many, many years.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's been, Keri's that person that doesn't matter if, really, I don't know how much time goes by sometimes that we don't talk or whatever, and then you chat and it's just like nothing's ever changed. So I adore my friendship with Keri, and I'm so thrilled to bring her to you guys and for us to have this conversation and see where it leads. So take it away, Keri. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you, Jen, for inviting me to your happy hour. I love to have a great, nice glass of wine and chillax. So this is a kind of a new thing for me. I've done some Zoom meetings over the last 6 months since COVID hit, but I've never actually talked about myself and kind of my journey. So thank you for giving me this platform. I have to admit I'm a bit nervous because I don't tend to like to talk about myself. But I think it's a good thing I put pen to paper and now to kind of get it out of my body about my kind of journey and my experiences through my life and how some of the things I've participated in have positively affected kind of my future and my present and kind of where things are going to take me. So my name is Keri Payne. I am originally from Nova Scotia, from Parker's Cove, and my husband is Brett. I have 2 kids, Tyler and Caitlin. They're teenagers. We are business owners. We have moved around a fair amount since we left Nova Scotia, but we have now landed in Saskatchewan, North Battleford, Saskatchewan, and we've been here for 10 years. This is the longest place we've ever lived since we met. And I have to admit that we didn't plan on staying in Saskatchewan this long, but we really enjoy it here. It's a great business community. We've met some really fantastic people and we're happy to be on the prairies. So I do miss the ocean, but I do get back to Nova Scotia occasionally, not as much as I'd like, but hoping that will change a bit now that the kids are a bit older and after COVID, hopefully that whole situation will change and I'll be able to travel and spend some time back in Nova Scotia where, my heart belongs, even though I've been been away from there a long time. So I have been hearing Jennifer talk about personal development and growth for years. We pretty much, we keep in touch. I'm not great at keeping in touch, but I do keep in touch with Jen fairly frequently. She's like my sister. So through all my travels and every place I've been, you know, she's been that constant for me. So yeah, she's really part of my family, and I can't imagine my life without her. But I remember her starting the Arbonne experience and starting on that personal growth journey, and we have had, I don't know how many conversations about it. And you know, she's read countless books and talked about all these things. She remembers these quotes that I can never remember, but I love when I hear them. So I always feel better after I talk to her, and has always made me look at things differently and kind of challenge the conventional way of thinking about things, which often I'm can get kind of tunnel vision. So I have seen her transformation before my eyes, physically through using great products like Arbonne, but also the personal development, dealing with trauma, dealing with, you know, negative things that everyone experiences. So I've actually witnessed it. And so I'm going to cut into going to Hoffman. So this is part of the reason that, you know, that I'm here. So when Hoffman Institute, one of the local business people that actually grew up in North Battleford had provided this opportunity for local people to go to the Hoffman Institute, and it's about personal growth. So I'll kind of get to that later, but when Jen had been talking about personal growth for so many years, and then this opportunity presented, I was, you know, I kind of knew what it was about. I was nervous about going, but in the end, I'll talk to you about it in a bit. I ended up jumping on the bandwagon and going full force. So I'll talk about Hoffman in a minute, but it is about personal growth and dealing with issues and your negative patterns and how to overcome a lot of that stuff. So part of my issues, or many of my issues, have to do with, and everybody's issues has to do with your childhood and kind of negative patterns that you kind of gained in your childhood, whether we want to believe it or not. So in my life, I've experienced several things. I have led a pretty go type of life, always on the go, moving, you know, with whether it's university or moving with my husband in our business. And I really put myself on the back burner. I always put him in our business, and then when we had kids, our kids first, no time for myself. Or I just made the excuse that I just work right through it, pretend nothing else is going on, and just kind of push my way forward and make everybody else happy and not myself. So the last few years, I've been feeling very frustrated. I couldn't really put my finger on it, but I knew things were boiling up inside of me. I was more angry, emotional. I mean, I've always been a people pleaser, always. I was feeling overwhelmed and worried a lot, really concerned with what other people were thinking of us and me. And, you know, I've also struggled with negative body image for years. Started when I was a young kid, and I mean, as Jennifer can attest to this, that's been a lot of struggle with weight and feeling, you know, just not pretty, not worthy, always feeling like, you know, maybe people thought I was confident, but in the inside I wasn't. And it's, you know, a lot of people may find that really hard to believe, but it started, gosh, I was probably 10, 11. I can remember feeling that way, and I've felt that way every day since. So even though on the outside it looked like everything was great, on the inside I was hurting, and it really started to, I kind of was able to deal with it until the last few years. It really was starting to boil over, and I could see it. I was having outbursts and just having more anxiety, and, you know, so I knew something was happening, but I knew kind of based on what Jennifer had gone through with personal growth that, you know, I needed to start working on myself. So yeah, so probably 2 months ago, I had a bit of a, I guess, epiphany. I remember texting Jen and saying, I think I'm an empath.
So you're like, do you have a minute? And I'm over in the Bay Shore with like poor cell service, and I'm like, hell yeah.
So I had heard the word, I don't know how many
it.
times, heard the word many times. I knew what it was, but I never thought of myself as an empath. And I had kind of a negative experience at a volunteer thing, because I volunteer a lot, and you know, that's another story. But I had a group of people that were coming together once a month, and I was having such a negative reaction to it, and I was like angst, and it just was so much dysfunction. I just felt I was absorbing everybody's energy and trying to keep peace, and felt guilt because I really wanted to pull out, but I felt guilt, and I just, it was a whole gamut of feelings. But I started to recognize that, oh my gosh, I'm pulling their feeling, this person's feelings, I'm absorbing. This person is this, I'm absorbing their hurt because their feelings are hurt, so I'm absorbing those feelings. So it was really like my feelings plus their feelings. I was being suffocated. So I had a complete, like, I don't know what you want to call it, but I basically said, like, I'm done. Like, I'm absolutely done, which I've never had a bit of a outburst before like that, and with a group of people. But after I got off, it was a Zoom, believe it or not, it was a Zoom. And after I was done, I was absolutely done. And I just, at that moment, said, oh my God, like, something is happening with me. I was so upset, and I was crying and just so upset, even though it was just a volunteer situation. I just had been building up inside me. And that, along with the realization that I was an empath, I was absorbing energy for different things, whether it's the business, going in and our staff, or, hockey games with my son or my parents, or, other friends that I have. I was absorbing a lot of energy and taking a lot of stuff on that was really affecting my mental health. So that was probably 2 months ago. And then probably a month and a half ago, this is where I go to Hoffman. So the Hoffman Institute is like a personal growth retreat, basically. And I had heard about it, but I was gifted the opportunity to go. It's you go for a week to a retreat, and you are totally immersed in an experience of personal growth. You're given permission to be completely self-absorbed for the whole week. So I was gifted this opportunity by a fellow who's from North Battleford, who is very successful, and he has made it his mission to try to help, people from the Battlefords to make the community a better place, to give back. And he is such a believer in Hoffman, because he did it several years ago, and thinks if you change one person, you can change. That's how you change the world. That's how you change communities. We deal with a lot of crime and mental health issues here in the Battlefords, and he, although he doesn't live here anymore, he's never forgotten where he's come from. And he is just so giving and loving, and wants to help make a difference for our community. So I'm very grateful to him and what he has given me. And but long story short, I wanted to say no. I wanted to say no initially, because it was COVID, and we had to go to Alberta and be in a retreat with no cell phone, no computer, no work.
What?
Nothing for a whole week. And my son was supposed to be going to university, and I wanted to get him ready and move into residence. But so everything was saying no, don't go, you can't go. It's not a good time. It's not a good time. But I decided to go. I said, you know what? There's going to be no good time. There's always going to be something coming up. There's not going to be a perfect time. So I decided to say yes and jump in, and just, the light bulb went off that the universe was trying to tell me something. My normal self would say, no, it's not a good time, and make every excuse in the book. I can't leave. I can't leave for a week. I can't leave the kids for a week. Can't leave, the business, can't leave my work, can't, but no. But I finally, I said, you know what, I'm doing it. I got to do it, because otherwise I can't keep going on this way, because I was really struggling. So anyway, from the 14th to the 21st of August, I went to the Hoffman Institute in Alberta, and it was life-changing. all the things that Jennifer had been talking about for 15 years. We learned about many of those things, you know, more in depth, obviously. And it was just absolutely astonishing to be surrounded by other people who on the outside. So there were 18 people there from all over, a lot of people from the Battlefords, but all over. So going there and realizing that everybody's hurting, everyone is hurting, and it doesn't matter what they look like on the outside. By the end of the week, you know, you realize that everyone has had trauma, whether or not it looks like they've had trauma. You know, trauma is different, you know, and it may to some seem like trauma, oh, that must be like, you know, child abuse or things like that. Not necessarily. You know, there could be traumatic experiences that you've had that you've internalized, and it's really affecting your ability to move on or be the best you can be. So I would say I had a fairly good childhood, you know, no major traumatic events that some people might think are traumatic, but there were things that have happened to me along the way that I would classify that really affected my, you know, my mental health. So trauma. So everyone on this earth is dealing with something. And that is really what we dove into, is that, you know, we looked at, you know, some of our traumas and our negative patterns that we developed through childhood, from our parents, our step parents, our guardians. You know, they could have had the best intentions, but there's still negative patterns that you get from your parents, and the ones that gave birth to you, biological, and the ones that are nurturing you and guiding you. Because when you're a young child, you know, your guardians are your, you know, that's all you know, and that's all you see, and you're watching and you're absorbing everything that they do and say, and how they take care of themselves, how they take care of others, how they neglect themselves, how they neglect others. There's so many different patterns that you're absorbing and watching and kind of internalizing. So we did a lot of deep discussions and a lot of internal work on dealing with negative patterns that you developed, particularly from your parents in childhood. And I mean, not to say that your parents obviously did the best they could with what they knew and what they had. And, you know, necessarily negative patterns don't necessarily mean, you know, they were abusive or anything like that, but it could be as simple as, you know, your mother didn't take care of herself. She gave everything to someone else, or you know, a spouse, and gave everything to them and neglected herself. So that's a negative pattern. So then that, you know, a child, like say me, could take that on as I do the same thing, or I could do it the opposite and like, you know, frig you, I'm not taking care of you, you know, you go completely the opposite. So you're kind of going the opposite ends of the spectrum. You could have a parent who's really denies everything, pretends things don't exist, you know, things aren't happening. You know, they could have had a trauma, a car accident or break-in, and then they're pretending it never happened. Oh, just don't even think about it, or don't worry about that, you know, you can't dwell on it, you know. That's a negative pattern, not dealing with things and not kind of being honest about feelings. And so there's so many negative patterns that you get. And then basically a lot of what we talked about is dealing with those negative patterns and where they came from, and kind of acknowledging them, you know, that, yeah, maybe I did get it from, you know, my mom, and not that she did it in a negative way, but I got it, you know, and she got her negative patterns from her parents too, and her, you know, guardians, or whatever type of situation she was in. So it's, you know, it's not to blame anybody. It's just recognizing that we're all children. Like we were all children at one time, and we all were past things from our parents. So no one's to blame. It's just recognizing it and moving it on to a place where you can recognize it, you know, and heal, and sometimes forget, you know, well, always forgive. So do you have any questions so far before I move on to other things?
Well, man, yeah, I could spiral out in a million different
I know you could.
And if you saw me over here like this, I'm taking notes. And it's because, and I wanted to just let you kind of go, because it's a really interesting journey. Because for anybody, if they were watching us as, you know, literally the Gong Show, like some of our conversations would be like grateful for a glass of wine, because sometimes they could be heated in the sense
yeah.
that, you know, what you would say to me, this was the early on, kind of like, and I'm somewhere, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's somewhere between not acknowledging that you needed it. So you were at that phase almost of not knowing. Or if you kind of knew, you were ignoring, one or the other. I'm not sure where it was, but the whole thing of, you used to say to me, you know, well, I just don't care about those kind of things.
I know it. I know.
I'm like,
and I think at the time I thought that. I did. I thought
no,
at the time
absolutely.
I thought it. Yeah.
Yep. And I think that it's interesting. I just kind of want to, you know, some of these things it's worthy of bringing up, because, you know, if somebody's listening to this and maybe you're saying that,
I know.
and you really believe it.
I know.
And that's okay.
You do believe it. I believed it. I believed it. Yeah.
And
I don't care about how I look, or I don't care. Yeah.
And it's okay, right? Like, it's okay. Like, wherever we're at, it's so important. I was doing some trainings today on, you know, building self-confidence, and there's something else. What the heck was it? I can't even remember. I was doing something else that kind of led me down this, this whole path of looking this stuff up. And one of the big things that it's about belief, right? Building your belief and stuff. And, you know, one of the biggest things is to believe in ourselves. And, you know, I think that it's kind of like, oh gosh, I just read a quote today by Albert Einstein. What was it? Something, oh my gosh, I've actually just got to go see it, because I thought, gee, isn't this the epitome? Did I save it? I hope I did. No, I apologize, I'm jumping out here. It is a miracle that curiosity survives formal education, by Albert Einstein. Now, take it with a grain of salt. Albert Einstein, I think he's somewhere between couldn't put his fly up or tie his shoes. I'm not sure. He, you know, he was like a brilliant mind, but maybe a little bit eccentric. But at the end of the day, between parents deciding what's important, what isn't important, right, based on their worldview, and they are perfectly imperfect, just like us.
Yeah.
Right. But also teachers, siblings, like anybody, like so many different things happen to us. And I know sometimes we can dismiss and say, well, that doesn't matter, or that didn't affect me, or eventually it catches up. And there are those negative patterns, whether you recognize it or not.
Yeah.
We all have patterned behavior. And not, I wish I knew, like statistically speaking, how many of those patterns were even yours.
Well, no, I don't think any. I think they all came from,
It really is so funny because for me, it started, I mean, I've always been interested in personal development and psychology and all this. It's so passionate, it's ridiculous. But I was always interested in acquiring the information, but I wasn't necessarily applying it all until I really started down this, you know, this path with Arbonne, because I used my business as like the safe space to explore and play with these things. Because it can be tough to do this work with your loved ones first.
Yes, because
just throwing that out there.
Very difficult. I would imagine. Like from what I went through at Hoffman, you've been dealing this for 10 years. I did a 1 week
15,
retreat, or 15, sorry.
Yeah.
Very intense, but you've been kind of, you know, and try, you know, just laying the little seeds here and there, you know, to people and trying to, you know, I guess have conversation and create, you know, profound thought without, you know, making people feel like, trying not to make them feel too uncomfortable, but challenging them. You know, you've challenged me many times to try to think outside the box.
So we would have
sometimes it got heated and I resisted, and I mean that's a natural thing. It is a natural thing when
we agree to disagree.
People don't want to deal with this stuff, you know.
We could agree to disagree, and that's the thing. And that's something I kind of want to put out there too, is what I love about our community. And I won't necessarily say that everybody's there, but I got to say that I'm there. And if I'm not there, call me on it. Because we all make mistakes, but I love having a safe space where it doesn't mean I don't have an opinion. It's just I'm not judging you.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody who's done any personal development, you get down and dirty with your crap, and you are so much more loving and compassionate and empathic, like, you know, have empathy for everybody else's garbage, right?
Just being real and honest and open and non-judgmental. Everybody, you're right. Everybody is,
and
you
we
know,
need those
in their own
spaces.
journey.
We need to have those spaces. But I remember for myself being told about this book, and I don't know if I think I've told you about this book. The Dance of Anger.
Oh my gosh, yes, I've heard you talking about that.
Well, and I'm just going to throw it out there.
That was the first book.
This was like the beginning, and I mean, I could tell you a whole long story, and maybe I'll do that another time, like, you know, with everybody to hear the story about like how I was introduced to this book. But I was like, I didn't even resonate with the word anger. What? Like, I'm not angry. I might have been frustrated, and I was a whole lot of things, and I'd give it some different adjectives, but I would never have called it angry. And it's so funny. It's all the same thing. But well, you don't know what you don't know, right? Yeah. But as I read the book, I'm the type that doesn't necessarily read a book for fluff. Anybody like, and I wish I could. I don't seem to have that capacity. It's kind of like a workbook. So as I'm like digging through this book, I'm journaling. And I got to be honest, I'm not necessarily a crazy journaler either. I'm not very committed to that. I'm better now, but in the beginning, this was 15 years ago, I was not committed. I would have 90 journals with about 3 pages written on it, and then it would be stuffed somewhere, only to be found later of like, I've got 3 pages of nothing written in it. Anyway, as I'm going through and I'm journaling and stuff, and I'm like, that thing that's been bugging me forever, and I'm recognizing it now as, let's say, a negative pattern or whatever. You know, I could say probably a million examples, and I'm like, it wasn't even mine.
I know it.
Like, as I'm going through, like, that was my mother's or my grandmother's, or, you know, whatever. It's like, this came from somewhere else, and I perpetuated it unknowingly.
And that's what it is. That's it.
It's insane.
That's it. Yeah, it absolutely is. So I'm going to get back to some of these things, because I just want to, I have my notes here that I wrote. So some of the skills, just getting back to what I dealt with at Hoffman, and I mean, it's just the negative pattern was the big one from the parents, and dealing, you know, recognizing that that's a big part of who we are, and what holds us back. So I've kind of made some points here. So big one, compassion and forgiveness. Big, huge. Not only for other people that have hurt you, but people you have hurt, because I know I've hurt people and have lived with guilt for a long time. So
can I add something in there too? I'd love to add something in there too, and I apologize not to jump in. To have compassion for yourself. And be kind to yourself. I have to be honest, and I've been doing this a long time, and there's different times where, you know, and I've heard it said many times, and I recognize it to be wickedly true. If you don't believe it, if anybody listening to this right now doesn't believe it, that's okay. That's where you're at. But the reality is this will become true for you and everybody else who listens to this. You can't give what you don't have. So if you don't love yourself, you don't know what love is yet.
Yes.
Until you love yourself, you can't give
number one
that love, and you can't receive the kind of love you actually want. So you might be praying for love, praying for that great relationship, but you better fix your relationship with you first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being compassionate to yourself and being kind and, you know, understanding, gentle, as you are realizing you hurt people. Yeah, they hurt you. Poor baby, right? Like, I mean, I've been the victim too. I played that, right? But the reality is when you start recognizing, oh yeah, maybe I didn't hurt that person, but I hurt this person. And so I know better than we're all the same. You know,
and
it gives you great compassion.
It gives you freedom. It releases you at freedom, because you can forget. I mean, you can just forgive yourself for things you've done, and just have more clarity about, you know, I wouldn't do the same thing today as I did back then. I would look at the situation and do it totally differently, you know. So lived a lifetime with guilt.
But we're human, right?
We're human. We've got to forgive ourselves. And when we recognize it and know that we wouldn't do the same thing, you know, a second time, then that's all you can ask for. You've learned from your experience. You wouldn't do it again. You know, give yourself a bit of a break and love yourself. Don't be judging yourself all the time, looking in the mirror, looking at your wide hips, your huge rear end, you know, out the line. So, and it's hard. But I mean, it's It's a short life. And this is one thing they talk to us about, like a short life.
Yeah.
You know, if you're say 45 and you live to be 100, that's not much time left. Like, believe it or not, it's not.
Yeah.
It isn't. So do you want to spend the rest of your life hating, you know, the rest of whatever years you have, disliking yourself, you know, judging yourself, being angry and upset and, you know, ridden with guilt? And or do you want to live the remainder of your life with some sense of happiness and calm and forgiveness? So that was one big. Another big one was my life is my responsibility, 100%, and every way. Addictions, how you let others treat you, everything. You know, my happiness is my responsibility. My life is 100% mine. I'm not blaming anybody else for anything.
Do you know how freeing that actually is?
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. And I'll say right off the bat, if anybody's listening to this and you are on full-blown victim mode, this won't seem easy.
No.
This will absolutely look like, what are you talking about? Like that person, blah, blah, blah. Yes, we're not responsible for the events. We're not responsible for how other people act, what they say. We're not responsible for that stuff. We are 100% responsible for how we choose to respond or react.
Through that.
You want to
this
truly
is another
respond,
thing.
but
no one can make you feel anything.
How many times did I say that to you?
No one can make you feel anything. That's what they said. This is another thing they said. I'm like, no one can make me feel anything.
Yep.
Because I really was like, what?
I know.
Of course they can make me. No, they can't. No, they can't make you feel guilty. They can't make you feel this. No, you're, you know, as long as you've carried yourself respectfully, responsibly, and you're kind, and, you know, you're following your moral compass, no one can make you feel anything. So no, they can't. They can't make you feel guilty. They can't make you feel bad for making these choices. No, because you're confident enough in yourself that they, you know, so don't blame them for making you feel guilty, or don't blame them for making you feel unworthy or ugly or whatever it is. No, it's not them. It's you. It's you.
Feelings
100%.
are yours. Feelings are yours. I used to say to Jacob when he was little, because I coached him through a lot of these feeling things early on. I remember saying to him, because he would tell me something. Feelings, you know, whatever, and I'm like, hey, I'm all over it because I'm an empath and I feel everything. I feel everything you're feeling. I feel everything I'm feeling. At any given point in time, I could be overwhelmed with the feelings. But I said, can you put those feelings in a jar? And so he got to the point where he'd giggle and, yes, I can. I'm like, no, you can't, because they're not real. You're choosing them, right?
Yeah.
It's a choice, and you perpetuate the thought incessantly in your mind through your self-talk and these things. But the reality is you created it. Yeah.
You created
Somebody
it.
over here might be trying to make you feel guilty.
Yeah.
Right. And they might be trying to make you angry, and they might be making, you know, trying to do a lot of things. But at the end of the day,
choice.
when you focus on getting yourself to a place where you're grounded, right? Where you're grounded in just being you, imperfectly you know, you do some work on yourself, and it's amazing how you start to really separate yourself from, yes, I get it. You feel that was perhaps not how that should play out.
Yes, that's your experience. That's your experience.
That's you,
absolutely.
Baby.
Yeah.
Let them own their bag, and you own your bag, and then all of a sudden you're just like, man, half the bag just left my shoulder.
I know it.
Maybe 3/4 of the bag, maybe the whole bag. I don't know. Because really, right? I mean, how many times, I certainly can tell you through the majority of my life, that was a huge issue, because I'm a recovering people pleaser too. And I mean, there's times where I still see that creep in, and you're like, damn, I see that pattern.
Well, you like another thing. So like you walk into a room, this happened to me, you know, you walk into a room and you immediately look around and see, you know, I always look for a smile or whatever, you know, and try to find, oh, that must be a nice person. That one's a real, you know, biatch, you know, whatever. I always instantly, and that's not them. It's me. I'm absorbed. Like, I'm making that judgment. I don't even know these people. I don't even know them, but instantly I've made a reaction. My negative patterns of wanting acceptance, trying to get other people to fill me up. You know, I need that smile to you know, make sure that they think I'm a nice person, or, you know, I don't even know them, and I've already made a judgment about them. And that is that's not that's not a good thing because it's limiting me and making relationships and
It
really
limits our experiences. We basically start to play really small with
so
this
you'll steer away
life.
from them in a grocery store, or you won't,
Yep.
if you see them out around, you kind of stay away from a one-time experience, or they could have been having an off day. So it's really not about, it's about them and what they're going through, and not to those negative patterns.
I can't tell you how many times I have, let's say I've been introduced to someone, right? I mean, in business, I meet a lot of different people through networking, and a lot of people like through the business and whatnot. And I can think of this one individual, but this one situation plays out a million other times in my lifetime. And I'm introduced to this person, and I don't know what's going on in her world, but she looked a little sour, and she looked a little, I'm making judgments, right?
Yeah.
But judgments of my comfort zone is not that person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? She struck me as somebody that I would have to be something other than myself to feel really comfortable with this
Mm-hmm.
person. You know what I mean? This is where the people pleaser comes out.
Yeah.
But I just, so I would kind of avoid communicating with this individual. Then I get stuck beside her on an airplane.
Yeah.
I love her.
Mm-hmm.
I think she is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it took me a little while to just get over myself, to give her that chance.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. What if I never did? How many times did I never give somebody a chance? Or, whatever. I said, I just throw that out there because patterns, it's literally playing into every aspect.
There's also the other scenario that this person may not be your cup of tea.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And that is okay. That is okay.
But the thing is if you
don't have to be with them all the time, and you don't have to be in their inner circle, but don't let it, throw you off kilter and affect, how you're going to proceed with your life. Like, don't let it freak you right out.
And I think
it's okay. You don't have to be best friends with everybody.
Instead of me projecting, right, based on what she was looking like, her facial language was telling me, her body language at the moment, whatever, instead of me projecting ideas onto who she was based on that, giving her an opportunity to show me who she really was.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing, is that to allow authentic relationships to actually happen, you got to get out of your head. Right? And I mean, to get out of your head is a lot of work, because so much of it is happening. Your self-talk in your head, all this stuff is literally default. Like, it's the default.
It's automatic.
It is.
Absolutely.
It's been happening for so long, you can't even see it. Right?
Yeah.
And the cool thing is once you start to see it, then you can't unsee it.
You can't unsee it. You can't unsee it. I will never be the same.
Personal development.
I will never be the same.
Yeah.
So another thing, big thing. Another one of my lists.
Yep.
I don't have much time. Happy 3 hours, I guess we could be.
We could be.
Instead of happy hour. We did a lot with our quadrinity, which is body, emotional child, intellect, spiritual self, and spirit guide. So those all kind of, well, the spirit guide's not your quadrinity, but anyway, the quad, body, emotional child, intellect, and spiritual self, they're all living inside of you. So every day, kind of taking a few minutes to listen to them. So we all have, our body, a physical body. What is our body telling us? Oh, we're tired, we're achy, listen to it. I have lived my life ignoring my body, So I've been now the last month trying to take some time to just a minute to say, okay, what's feeling, what am I feeling today? Am I tired? My eyes are tired, my back hurts, those type of things. Just to recognize it, I still, I can't really, once I recognize it, it's hard to ignore it, which I've ignored in the past.
Can I just throw in there too?
I write it pen to paper.
Listening to your body is like listening to a friend.
Oh.
And I think that when you listen, you honor.
Yeah.
And so know that that's a piece of self-care, self-love, right?
Like, and it could be the simple as so I'll call it the emotional child. The emotional child. We all have a child within us, which I have not listened to for ages. Like, so what is a child? I mean, being childlike is, something we kind of ignore as adults, like doing things that are childlike,
fun.
Going into a river, like we actually went into a river with our clothes on, freezing cold, you know, and I wanted to say no. I was like, no, 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 I'm not going. I went in, couldn't believe how happy it made me. I was freezing and my clothes were wet, but I went in and like, I would have done that as a child, but as an adult, I would have said no, but everybody was doing it. All the girls were doing it. I'm like, we were ranged from 25 to 65 years old, men and women.
Nice.
And, you know, just something simple like that, saying yes to something when you would normally say no, you know.
Safely.
Whether it's
Safely.
like,
let's just put that out there.
Safely. Like say, yeah, safely. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Like being more childlike, that's important. You know, dancing, you know, we had a dance party, you know, those things that you don't realize how much, you know, I used to dance and love to dance and we danced simple, dance, different dance songs. And we all had our turn in the middle, like just simple things, be more childlike. It was amazing. Listening to your intellect, because your intellect is what guides you. So you have, but your child and your intellect have to be kind of work together. And then your spiritual self, that's like really, you know, up here, you know, yourself and what your spirit is trying to tell you. And then your guide. So, you know, you could be, you know, you can choose your own guide. It could be someone different every time, just kind of overseeing you. So whether you believe in God, whatever type of heavenly or super force you believe in, doesn't matter. Just something, believe in something, you know, if you don't, whatever, but something that's kind of bigger than you are. So every morning I do simple not even 5 minutes. I do go through my quadrinity. What has my body feeling? What is my child telling me? What is my intellect telling me? You know, what is my spiritual self telling me? Just could be a few words. That's it. You know, my back hurts. Well, okay. And then I set my intention for the day. So I write it on paper. I have a little binder I made, and that's all I do. It takes me less than 5 minutes. But what's my intention for the day? And simple. I thought it was hokey maybe when I first did it, but it really is something, what a difference it makes. What's your intention for today? And then at the end of the evening, when I'm getting ready for bed, I just do my gratitude, three sentences of what I'm grateful for about myself. Like about me, what am I grateful about myself? What's good in me, and why am I proud to be who I am? And then also grateful in my life. So simple. And then I look at what my intention was and see if that kind of played out in my day. Yeah. So simple, like it's really simple. It doesn't take very long, but it's made a big difference.
Awesome.
The dark side. We did a lot of talk about the dark side and how it is always there, always telling you can't, always telling them that you're not worthy, always telling them that you're not smart enough, you're not pretty enough, you're too fat, you're too thin, that person won't like you, you know, it's constant talking to you. So it is an everyday challenge to try to keep that dark side at bay. And whether it's, you know, somebody approaches you and you get a negative feeling and they're like kind of at you, and you say, you know what, just give me a minute. I got to run to the bathroom and we'll deal with this when we come back. You know, just to get away for 5 minutes and stop and say, okay, I'm having a really negative reaction here. What's going on? What's happening? You know, just to take that few minutes away from the situation to try, because your dark side may be saying, you know, tell that person to go, you know, where, or maybe withdraw from them, or ignore, you know, not listen to what they're saying. Like all these things, you know, your negative side could be telling you any number of things, but trying to stamp that dark side out and realize that the dark side is always trying to take you down, and it's obviously going after your negative patterns, your negative quality, maybe qualities, you know, whether it's, you know, judgmental, overreacting, catastrophizing. You know, I'm a great catastrophizer.
Like you're talking about that. And I just want to chime in for a second, because this book was given to me by one of my business partners, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers by Debbie Ford. Game changer book. And what's so interesting is I had heard a long time ago, funny that you're talking about this because it just reminded me. Did I ever tell you the story of the two wolves?
I don't know, probably. But I don't.
So it's like some Native American story or whatever, and basically like this child goes and talks to like a shaman or a medicine man or whatever, and just said, I feel like I've got two wolves fighting inside of me, right? one is all these positive attributes, right? One is the light and one is the dark, all the what we consider to be negative attributes kind of thing. And he said, and they're fighting, and he said, which one's going to win? And there's some videos on YouTube, and you can check this out, the story of the two wolves. And anyway, there's a really quick version that says, you know, well, the one that you feed, which is basically what you focus on expands. But there's actually another version, which is, they call it the sort of the true ending to the story. And the reality is, and I truly, when I heard this, I was like, I believe this to be true, and I think we all need to recognize that we need to accept both, because we're all of it.
Yes.
We have all the light and we have all the dark. We have the capacity, doesn't mean you will, we have the capacity for all of it, right? And what you judge in someone else is something you have not accepted in yourself. And we're all potentially guilty of that at one point or another in our life. But the reality is when they talked about these two wolves, the way the medicine man kind of talked about it was the fact that if you feed one and not the other, he'll be lurking behind the corner waiting for you for a weak moment. So when you have a trauma happen in your life, someone dies, something, whatever, and then it will creep right in. So if you ever find that you're at sort of a weak point and all of a sudden now you're like in the depths of depression, anxiety takes over. But if you own both, you get to this place where you feed both, listening to your body, same kind of thing. You listen to the good and you listen to the bad. That does not dwell, not go into you know, some hole in the ground, but just honor those things. Maybe I had a bad thought.
Yeah.
Maybe I judged somebody, you know, whatever, but just be okay with it instead of judging yourself. Be compassionate. And that when you accept both, you're truly at peace.
Yeah.
Because you're not sitting there cutting yourself down all the time or like ready to be swept off.
A lot of people think, and you know, they think happiness is nothing's ever happening to them. Like everything's content, everything's whatever. But no, that's not true.
That's not it at all.
People go through crap all the time. They go through divorce. They lose a child. They lose a parent. They go bankrupt. They're financially, you know, in complete disarray. There's that, and that dark side will constantly be at you, and it's there. It's always going to be there. To pretend that it doesn't exist is ridiculous, because you're gonna listen to the dark side sometimes. I mean, you're gonna be, you know, wanting to listen to them and kind of go with them, but this is all this stuff, this personal development stuff is trying to pull you back to the center. So left road, right road. Do you listen to the dark side and go way down the left, or do you know, try to stick to that right road? So the dark side is trying to pull you to the left, and you may go down there a little bit. You may go down there, but you can pull back to center, course correct, and start going this way. So there's no, you know, no matter how far down the hole you are or that left road, you can course correct.
You can always come back.
Right. Yeah, always come back. So that was a big.
Never too late. It's never too late to do this work.
It's never too late. No.
It's never too early.
No.
Right? And I have to say something that you said that I love, you know, not necessarily is like there's tons of retreats and you don't have to do a retreat. I never did. I've done some little retreats, but it wasn't the retreats that did this for me. They were catalysts. They call them like sparks. Yeah. Sometimes they're like they ignite, but the work is after. You can't do all the work in 5 days.
No, you can't.
This is
it's gonna be a constant thing.
Time journey. Right?
And you're battling stuff all the time. There's constant things that are gonna happen.
Surrounding yourself with good people.
Yeah.
Who are that are on sort of that journey with you will help you stay on course.
Yeah.
You know, what I found for myself was I had a lot of what I'd call default relationships. People that were in my life because they had been in my life forever, but they were not going in the same direction as me. You know how sometimes you like, you know, you've changed. You know, I remember someone saying to me one time, you know, I guess at that time I'd gone off to college or whatever, and it's like, you've changed. I'm like, thank God.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, I can't help it if you're not happy with the fact that I've grown. But I'm loving it. So if you want to come over to me, great. And we might hang out, maybe have a beverage, you know, whatever. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to spend as much time with people that are going to sit around and complain and, you know, on about stuff that's just not interesting.
Yeah. This was, it reminded me of this compassion. And we're talking about trying to help others, because that's I know one thing you're always trying to help other people, which is great.
Yep.
But compassion is not a relationship between the healer and the wounded. It is a relationship between equals. So at friendship, sometimes it's like, you want, guy broke up with you and you wanted to, the girl wants to come over and bash the guy. Oh, he's such an asshole. Sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to swear, but
No,
anyway. And then your friend be like, yes, he is. He is such a jerk and da-da-da. And I mean, I'm just talking about, years, but no, not like that in an adult situation. You don't have to fix the situation. You don't have to fix their hurt.
Right.
You're supposed to be equals and kind of talk it through and not try to fix something, because you can't fix it for them. You cannot fix it for them.
You can't do anybody's work.
And they can't fix it for you. So stop trying to be the healer. If you are that, you've taken on that role, don't be the healer. Just be there to be a sounding board, talk it through. That's all often what people need, is they just want, you don't need to, keep going through the same thing and try to validate or put other people down and say, yes, it's their fault. No, just be there for them to talk and talk it through, and not kind of let them come up with their own solutions, rather than, try to give them, you should do this and you should do that. Like that doesn't work.
It's funny. I was that person. And so I'm super freaking guilty of that. Just wanting to help everybody. That was, I think I've been put on the earth for that. But at the end of the day, it was me finding my path to do that in a healthy way.
Yes, a healthy way that doesn't.
And I never realized I was willing to sacrifice myself to balance out someone else. And that wasn't good. Right. And that was, what was that about? Right. What do you mean I'm going to self-sacrifice? What? I think I got to a place where it's I recognize I like to work with people who want to do the work themselves.
Yeah.
And I will say that sometimes through an adult conversation, you might be able to impact someone's ability to see it differently, right? If you can shift the perspective, then they can all all of a sudden solutions start to flood in. The problem is when you're in that mode, right? Let's say you're angry about something or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You can't really see solutions when you're hijacked emotionally.
Yeah.
But
they gave a good example, is that someone, say they're in a hole, literally on the ground.
Yeah.
And one friend walks by and they're in a hole and they're like, help me. So they put the arm out, and the person in the hole grabs that person and pulls them in the hole. They're in. Now they're both in the hole.
Yeah.
That's not doing anything. So then the next friend walks by and said, I'm in the hole, help me. Anyway, he comes back, throws them a rope.
Yeah.
So he's helped them get out of the hole, but he hasn't pulled himself in with it.
Right.
That was profound to me. I'm like, you know what? That's a big deal.
It really is. Well, I mean, we know, I mean, I was a firefighter for, a long time, and you think about these things of how many people do you hear going and trying to save someone drowning, and they end up drowning.
Yeah. Right.
So it really is. It's amazing how, I just think at the end of the day, relationships can be win-win, right? And it's not about, everybody's got to do their own work. It comes down to taking responsibility for yourself, and not for the stuff, not the junk that's happening that you're not happy about. I get it. It's about taking responsibility to decide, do I want to react how I've always reacted, right? Out of default, without thinking, I'm angry and I want to lash out and say something or whatever, or do you want to learn how to intelligently respond? Right? Giving yourself a minute to breathe, collecting your thoughts, and over time you become more and more, I don't know, it's discipline there. Discipline. I'll just say there's a tremendous amount of discipline. Yeah. And I mean, and it's funny, it's not a word I love. I've had a lot of negative connotation to discipline. But I truly believe that discipline is where success lies. Discipline is going to be one of those things that really, a lot of people are not disciplined with their mouth, not disciplined with their actions, not disciplined with their eyes, their thoughts. I mean, we could go on, and I'm guilty. Yeah. I'm guilty. I mean, I'm here almost 50 years of age, and I've probably run the gamut. I've done everything. And I'm trying to make it right. I'm just trying to be a better person. And, I think it's pretty cool. And I know we're probably getting up here. If you want to add some more too, but I just want to say I'm thrilled that you've been open to this conversation.
Oh, thank you.
And I just want to put this out to everybody because it's so much fun. When Keri got back from Hoffman, I'd set an alarm and she called me beforehand because I was ready to attack her when she got home and could actually home.
Yeah.
That, you know, I'm just so thrilled because it's not about equal playing field or anything. It's just like having more adult conversations about stuff that matters, right? And both being able to come from a place where nobody's thinking that, you know, because you said something, you said it because you thought this behind it. Like, no.
No judgment. Like, no judgment. Yeah.
Right?
That's why I think we have such good conversations, because you don't feel judged. And I think, and you know, and it's hard to find that in the world, is to not feel judged by someone, or that they're going to go talk about you in a negative way to other people. So that is, I think, search for those relationships in your life. If I could give you any piece of advice, is search for those relationships where you can have open, honest, non-judgmental conversations where you're not trying to hurt them and they're not trying to hurt you, and that you can trust. It's a safe space. So I just want to, a few things. I know we're running out of time, but I just want to end with a few little key points.
I love it.
So the cycle of transformation was big. Awareness, expression, then it goes to compassion, forgiveness, then new behavior. So you got to feel it to heal it.
100%.
You can't pretend it didn't happen, or no matter what somebody tells you, you know, pretend it never happened, it never happened. You know, you got to feel it. You've got to go through it. You've got to be aware of it. You've got to express it, whether it's through writing, stomping it out, you know, taking your foot and just going in the closet and, you know, banging it out, getting it out of your body. So writing has helped me. Writing a, you know, an angry letter to somebody who hurt me, you know, just writing that out, you know, all the things, you know, how you hurt me and, you know, whatever. And then on the other hand, writing, and after that, writing a nice letter and say, you know, I'm grateful for this, you know, this aspect of whatever the relationship was like, you know, it wasn't all bad. So getting the anger out and then getting the positive out, it was really, really cathartic for me. Having tools in your toolbox. That's basically what it is having, because it's having tools in the toolbox when shit hits the fan and your life looks like, oh my God, what's going on? Having some tools in your toolbox so that you don't completely get off track. And that's all this is, personal development.
Yep.
And my last point was that I know I had talked about being at peace. So that's kind of, my goal was to live a peaceful life. And it's not that there's never going to be trauma, like things that happen, not trauma, hopefully not trauma, but things that happen, you know, because I'll deal with it differently than maybe I have in the past, but things are going to happen that are going to be really bad. You know, everybody has issues and things that happen, death, you know, could be anything. But living a peaceful life, even though situations aren't always peaceful, whether that makes sense or not. You know, there's going to be chaos. You know, there's chaos, but you're still kind of at an internal peace.
Yeah.
And that you're, you know, you have the tools and the skills to be able to kind of recenter, course correct again. So that's kind of my vision, and what my goal is for my life is just to live at peace, even though there could be unpeaceful situations. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
that's it.
Thank you so much. You know, what I love is that, you know, here, I think we've talked about everything from, you know, the beginning, like not knowing, all the way to like now, you know, and you can't not know. And everywhere in between. And we've talked about some simple things you can do, and that whether you do what Keri's doing, you know, to check in with yourself, setting an intention for the day, or gratitude, whether you do that or you do something else, like there's more than one way to climb the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but there are some really common things that play into it. Gratitude is absolutely one, right? I mean, if you're grateful, if you have a grateful spirit, like as you learn how to be grateful for the crap that's happened to you in your life, when you can take the time to take an event, I mean, I've had plenty in my lifetime, really negative events, and when you can turn that around and find a pearl in there, just one pearl, now you got something better to hold on to. You know, I mean, my mom's been gone now for, I don't know, 4.5 years maybe. Dad's been gone for like 25. you know, and I mean, I could go on and on about other things, but the 2 miscarriages, I mean, all these things. But I look at each one of these things, I remember even as soon as, pretty much almost as soon as Mom passed away, and even while she was sick for 7 months with cancer, you know, looking for the pearl. I'm looking, I can't see it today, but I know there's something there. I will see it when I'm ready, but I know it's there. When I even just, because I've done it in so many other places of my life, that I just know that whenever anything terrible happens, that it's happening for me, not to me. Yes, my mom passed away, and I could say that happened to me. But the reality is we're all going to pass away. Like, bad things are going to happen.
They're
and
going
I think
to happen.
this is the key. Don't be naive. Don't be ignorant. You know what I mean? Don't be silly. Be an adult, right? We make mature decisions based on facts. Crap's going to happen, right? Life is going to happen. But will you be ready when it does? Will you have the kind of people around you that will support you? Anybody who's lost anybody will find out very quickly who's willing to stick around when times get tough. Right? So we figure out, well, who are the people worth investing in? Okay, keep them. Say hi to the rest, right? But keep them, you know, and find more like them. And, you know, will you have the other tools like, I don't know, meditation? Have you practiced that? Have you, you know, and that's something that I truly did not believe it worked until I figured out how to make it work for me. It takes
it's not easy. We did visualizations, and
Yeah.
you can find many on the internet. And I mean, the
tons.
first couple of them, I was like, oh, I have never done it before. I was like, oh my gosh, I was thinking, looking all around. I couldn't concentrate. But by the end, it was like, you know, I really could get into it, and I never thought that I could. I just didn't give it a try. I didn't give it a try.
And I think it's so quick to dismiss, because when I did meditation, finally at one point, I broke down, I bought a program. And it was like, so when I bought the program, and they're like, because my mind is running a mile a minute.
1,000,000 miles a minute. I know,
you know, it's like, what do you mean? Like, I just got to stop thinking, and I can't stop thinking. What are you talking about, stop thinking? And the reality is I was projecting that I thought it meant I needed to stop thinking, when in reality, it wasn't that at all.
No, it isn't.
It's completely different.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier. And once I just heard that, and it cost me $125. This program I bought, you don't necessarily have to go do that, but I'm just throwing that out there. YouTube has so much free content. But once I figured out what it really was, and I practiced that, it wasn't even a month and I had it. And I said, it's been like completely transformative. And that's something that I can always come back to, that grounds me.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to take a long time, because I was always the type that, you know, oh, I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time for it.
Fair enough.
You know, it doesn't take very long, honestly. If you can't have 5 minutes for your day, like, honestly, it could be 5. Visualizations take a little longer, but, you know, even just my quadrinity check, less than 5 minutes, you know, less than 5 minutes. If you can't give that to yourself, then something is wrong. Something is wrong.
This is part of why I started these events, right? It was like, invest an hour in you, and throughout the week, maybe you put in an hour. You know what I mean? And I know tonight we're doing this.
Should be able to.
About an hour. But if you can't, then that's your problem.
There's something wrong.
Start there.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I've spent 25 years saying I don't have time. I don't have time, you know.
Well, and the thing is I love one thing that I heard a long time ago, is when someone says they don't have time, they're actually not stating a fact, they're stating a priority.
Yes.
It's like, damn, right? You just like,
yes.
Right? Because you're like, because I chose that priority a lot. Like, how many times in my lifetime have I said I don't have time?
Oh,
I don't have time. I don't have this. I don't have, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. And the reality is I was literally just not choosing me right now.
Yeah. You're choosing everything
I'll go
else.
do the laundry. That's got to be way more important.
Yeah.
Or we'll need clean towels. Right? The dirt will still be there, but at the end of the day, right, you need to take care of you. So
And one last thing, a big thing, I did this for my kids, because I knew I wanted to set a better example.
I like that. Pay it forward. Yeah.
You know, I realized that, you know, I wasn't setting the best example. I was giving everything away, and I don't want my kids to do that. I want them to take time for themselves and not feel guilty about it. So, and also you have better communication skills, and I'm not let my negative patterns affect their future in a negative way. So I realize that, you know, they're watching everything I'm doing, and I need to do better. And that was a big eye-opening experience for me, is trying to set a better example to them and people around me. So, yeah.
I love that you brought that up, And I think that's a really great place to finish this. And whether somebody has children or, you know, of their own, or they have nieces and nephews, or I don't care, you got cats and dogs, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I know we can set bad patterns for our dogs. I'm just saying,
Yes.
I mean, we're
Yes.
fur baby people, so we get it. But I saw that a long time. I mean, I've been doing this for, like I said, close to 15 years that I've been really diving in and working on me. And it has always been, and it's been very important to me. And I've said to many other people, your kids are watching. And I'll tell you, I'm not doing it all right. Like, I will not proclaim to be anything. There's nothing near perfection. At any given point in time, we talked about this before, it can be a shit show. Like, I mean,
Yes.
you know, like, just doing my best. And at any given point in time, like when Mom was sick, my best looked a hell of a lot different than it does right now. When Mom passed away, it looked completely different than it does right now. Like, your best is your best today. That's it. You're just going to do your best. That's it. But I knew Jacob was watching.
Yeah.
And once I started, I sort of created that focal point. It had created some accountability for me to step up my game, to raise my standards a little bit. And I have to say, there's been so many places like bullying issues and things that I feel like, man, I brought the best version of myself to those conversations that completely transform his life.
Yeah. Like,
completely. Man, if I had known some of the stuff that I had taught him, you know, when I was his age back then, like in grade primary and whatnot, I'm like, oh, man, my life would have been completely different. But I'm sure I screwed up a million other things. I said, I'll pay for the therapy later. Like, whatever. Like, that's what it is. We're all going to do, you know, again, just doing the best we can. But those patterns absolutely do. They repeat themselves through the generations. And if we want our kids, honestly, I think most of us want our kids to have a better life than we had, right? I mean, you want to give them a great life, and that great life is not sacrificing yourself. It's investing in yourself.
It is not. Sacrifice. Sacrifice does not equal love. Sacrifice, this is another big one. Sacrifice does not equal love.
Right.
That's it. Like, that was big for me too. Because I sacrificed myself thinking that it was, you know, that I love them more. And it's not that at all. I don't want them to sacrifice themselves down the road for anybody. I want them to, you know, love themselves and be happy and to be able to give so much to the people around them. So yeah, it was eye-opening.
Well, my heart is just bursting open, because even you just saying that reminds me of a million conversations I've had with moms that have given everything to their kids, only for their kids to grow up and feel that they are entitled to everything. And then the parents realize that they disconnected because spent so much time with the kids, didn't take care of that primary relationship. So that starts to fall apart. Not that has to fall apart, but it's going to struggle, you know. And then all of a sudden the kids go away and this relationship's not doing so great. And the woman sits here and just like, well, who the hell am I?
But I gave everything. Like, but yeah.
But I did it all right.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Anyway, and with love to everybody. Like, and I'm just throwing that out there. Love to everybody. There is, again, no right or wrong. It's just when you realize for yourself, if something's working for you, keep doing it. If it's not working for you, play with it. Maybe there's some other choice that you could make, right? Like, I don't know, get curious. I think that's the big thing, is being curious, being a student of life. YouTube has so much stuff. Like, if you have some feeling and you don't know how to handle that, go, you know, Google it or YouTube it or whatever, and watch a couple of videos, and all of a sudden you're just like, you might have a new idea you didn't have before, which could lead you on a whole trajectory to cracking open and seeing something completely differently, and it could change everything.
Yeah. And it really doesn't have to be that hard. Like, it doesn't have to take a ton of time or whatever, but you have to be constantly aware of it. So if you just, you know, a few little things, I keep going back to tools in the toolbox, a few little tools to help you manage, you know, different negative things that, you know, patterns and different beliefs that you have, that, you know, it doesn't have to be overwhelming, because the internet to me can sometimes be completely overwhelming. There's so much. So try not to get too overwhelmed with it, and just focus on, you know, even small changes can make big, big differences in your life.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Holy smokes.
Thank you.
A happy hour and a bit.
Yeah. Sorry, girls and guys.
I just want to say, we did good.
We did
We
good.
did good.
Yes.
Because when we talk, it's usually a marathon. So this could have been a whole bottle of wine. This could have been a lot of things, right? We could have been hydrating at this point. I don't know. But thank you so much, Keri, honestly, for just being vulnerable and sharing some of that, because, you know, it's amazing as you were so well articulating some of the stuff that, you know, for years you just didn't talk about.
Oh no.
And I know it all. Like I said,
I know you
I'm
do.
here for it all. So, but you just didn't talk about things, you know, whatever, or you'd pass it off or push it to, you know what I mean, whatever. And it's really, it's nice because, you know, I don't know, when you give things a voice, take some of the sting out. Like all of a sudden the power it kind of had on you, or the power it did have on people, doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're back in control. And that's
well, and it feels so good to be honest. Like it really does. And as hard as it was to go through that, because it was hard. It was really, really hard, and kind of, I would say, traumatic to get it out of my body, because it was in there. It was in there. It was really, really difficult. And I'm telling you, there were some days that were, really tough. But it was so, I feel so much better to be honest and open with myself and my family. And I just feel a sense of calm that I never had before. So.
Oh my gosh. Is that
I wish that everybody could have calm and peace. That's, you know, I feel so much for people, what they hurt and that they're feeling, you know, things they're going through. I have so much compassion for all of it, because we're all, like, you know, we're all struggling with something, you know. We all are. And we've just got to be, you know, or I'm just more aware of it now that we're all struggling, and there's no one that is immune to it. So yeah.
And it's funny, until you do the work, right, it's so much easier just to judge people. Well, they don't have the shit together.
Yeah, they don't have the shit together. Yeah,
right.
They're, you know.
And once you start doing some work, you're like, well, I know, like I know that story.
Well, you have compassion for people. Like you're like, you know what? I feel bad for where they're at, because they're obviously hurting or they're struggling or whatever. Right? So I feel bad, you know. So when you have, instead of anger, you have more compassion. It is life changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, this conversation could go on forever and ever. Amen. And I'm really thrilled with the stuff that we covered. I hope that somebody somewhere heard something in here that just, I don't know, plants a seed and maybe spark something in you to find a community that's supportive, maybe to, you know, think about the friends you got. Like, you know, if you're looking for that kind of community, I know my VIP community is a place that we can have, you know, these kinds of conversations, or there's, you know, there's more opportunities for this. And stay tuned. I just want to say that I'm going to have a lot more events roll out. I've actually got one coming up. I'm working with a gal about vision boarding. We're going to do a bunch of stuff that is all going to be around really just becoming the best version of ourselves. And my tagline always was, funny, this is what I came up with in the beginning of my business, was really becoming who I was meant to be before life got in the way. And I feel like when I think back to that childlike stuff, when you go back to who you were as a kid, that freedom, you could be anything, literally, right? I mean, you could be anything, do anything. I mean, and it's sometimes.
Just 1 second.
Yeah.
I recommend that everybody get a picture of themselves when they were a little girl or a little boy, and keep it at your desk.
Golly, I
keep
know
it at
those
your desk.
grades.
So this was one thing to remember who that person was, and listen to them a little more. You know?
Yeah. And you know, it's funny. I like the idea of getting the picture, because it kind of grounds you too, of like, and I think you can have compassion for that kid, right? Whereas we can be really tough on ourselves. I don't know why we think we're supposed to have all the answers and we're supposed to be perfect. I'm not sure where that message got ingrained, but it's a bunch of crap.
It is.
So bless and release that, you know? And I like that a lot. Yeah. So, all right, stay tuned for more events, and the happy hour is about over.
Love you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.